Welcome again to the Inspired Riding interview series. Thank you so much for being here. Let's start with just taking a nice deep breath. Let's breathe in, breathe out, sending love to all of you. And I am so excited and grateful that Crystal Forsell is here to chat with us. She is a dressage trainer and judge and a wonderful, incredible human who has a really fun group as well called Open Minds Dressage. And welcome, Crystal, to the interview series. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for that beautiful welcoming.
You're welcome. Do you want to tell people where you are and what lights you up for teaching?
I'm in Leander, Texas. That's just right outside of Austin. And gosh, what lights me up? All of it, really. I mean, I just love the progress. I've always been a big fan of the underdog, taking the horses that weren't perfect, maybe conformationally, or had the perfect history, and love watching them blossom. So you learn a lot that way. And yeah, I just love helping people and helping the horses.
That shines through with everything you do, definitely. And if you guys hadn't known, I've taken a few lessons remotely with Crystal, and she's so much fun to work with, and Pepper likes her too.
Oh.
And that's saying something, because we always go with the opinion of our horses often.
Right.
So I'm going to start with a really fun question. If you were handed $10 million, what would be the first thing that you would do?
Gosh, so I'm going to pretend that it's not $10 million and it's just infinitesimal.
Yes, that works
that there's a bottomless amount of money, because I don't know how much something like this would even cost. But I would love to build a retreat, sort of a place where people could come with their horses. They could do the weekend or the week-long thing where they could only do horses. So people that are working and taking care of their families and have so much going on come in. We'll take care of the food, rent your little cabin, and we bring in all kinds of different people, like clinicians for, your riding, dressage, and jumping, having trails, and then we'd say, the elective courses, maybe some body work for the horses, for the people, some mindset and coaching. And it would be lovely to have proper school high level horses for people to ride and learn on as well. So that would be something super fun to do, I think.
Were you looking at my notes? You must have been looking at my notes, because this is part of my dream. So I think we need to collaborate and get all of these things going together. And you're not the first one to say this in the interview series. So I'm feeling like we're assembling the Avengers, and we're going to make this happen.
Yeah, I mean, even if it wasn't something I could build, I feel like there's probably a place where we could make it happen out there somewhere.
I agree. And you would be an amazing clinician to come in and do fun things too.
So, thank you.
Yeah, I love this idea. We'll keep that conversation going as we manifest things into the future. I love this.
Let it be.
Yeah, why not, right?
Yeah.
So fun. So let's talk about your beginning stories. How did you?
Oh, my beginning stories?
How did you first get into riding, and what was that experience like for you?
So I think I was one of those kids that was kind of born that way. I remember, begging for the horse and begging for riding as a little kid. My mom had horses before, but we didn't really get. I had lessons a little bit, kind of off and on here and there. So I was growing up. I worked in the city stables for one summer. But the funny part of that story is my mom always thought the first time I came off, I'd be done.
Oh.
Be over it. And clearly that never happened. So, then I always thought, gosh, it'd be kind of a great career, but I never really gave it much serious thought. So I went to school, I went to college and got a degree in something completely unrelated. And, but at the same time, I became a working student. So my serious dressage didn't actually start till I was the last year of high school and first year of college. But then I became a working student and started taking on lessons and taking on horses and training. And now here we are.
This sounds exactly what happened to me. I got a degree in international studies and didn't learn proper dressage till beginning of actually the last year of college, probably. Yeah. It's pretty wild.
And what happened was I didn't get my own horse until I was 17 at my senior year of high school.
Okay.
And I think back on it now and think I was so lucky to get that horse because, I guess I was so lucky that he was what he was. Mm-hmm. Because going in as a first-time buyer, I mean, we all know the stories and how they can go. Yes. This horse came from a horse trader.
Oh.
He had no name because the horse trader got him as a package deal.
Oh.
They weren't even going to show him to us yet because they still wanted to put weight on him. So you're getting kind of the picture here.
Yeah.
But he was kind of good enough, and I rode him okay for what I knew how to do. And we really just felt sorry for him because he had no name. And so yeah, I got that horse as my first horse. And I just always knew, I'm like, you got to do the dressage before you jump. Got to do the dressage before you jump. So I started taking those dressage lessons and never really looked back.
Nice. What kind of horse was he?
Well, he had no name. So we certainly didn't have breeding, but my guess was he was some variety of thoroughbred because that's what he looked like.
Okay. Yeah. Right on.
No tattoos, but he was.
So what did you end up naming him? Now I'm curious.
I named him Dante.
Oh.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. On Dante.
Nice. So did you ever have a heart horse or a horse that was very special to you?
Well, I mean, he was special. I mean, we rode all over the hills together when I had him, even, maybe doing some things that weren't so smart. Riding by myself all over the Bay Area hills. But I always think of my heart horse as my little Welsh cob, my little stallion that ended up as a gelding. He ended up having some pretty serious health problems that he had to be put down from.
Oh.
Because he colicked.
So sorry.
But he was the most special. Like he and I were the most, I bought him as a 2-year-old. I started him myself. So everything that he did, it was because it was something we did together. And that was the kind of the first horse for me that really looked to me for guidance and confidence. And so you could tell.
That's really cool.
That was him.
I'm glad you had that relationship.
Yeah.
What's something you wish you had known from the start of your horse journey?
That's such a hard question to answer because I want to say everything.
That's a valid answer.
I mean, horses and dressage are one of those things. A few things are true. You don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you know, the more you kind of know that you don't know.
Yes.
It's one of the things that I love about it is that there's no end. There's no, I've reached the top level. I know everything now. It's a practice and you're just always learning. So that's one of the things that I love about it.
It really helps when you're an insatiable learner too.
Yeah, there's no end. And I always tell my clients and I tell everybody, I get the most excited when I have a personal, not the lessons I teach, but the lessons that I take. I'm the most excited at the ones that don't go as well. Oddly enough, because I walk away from going, this is the next thing I get to learn.
Yes, what a great
This is
point.
the next thing I get to dive into. So
That's such beautiful perspective. I love that.
yeah.
It's like, yep, we're having a growth moment. It's going to be okay.
Exactly. Yep. If you're not growing, you're standing still.
This is true. Oh my goodness. So what's something new that you've learned lately?
Well, I'm diving more into biomechanics right now.
Nice.
So my current personal horse is kind of leading me down this path. She's kind of led me down more paths than I even care to go on, but it's like there's a reason. It's like clearly I haven't gotten it yet, so we just keep going. So yeah, I'm learning more about biomechanics of the horse and really getting in depth to that, and hopefully it'll help solve some of her problems. But it also, gosh, it makes me, with what I'm learning from her, I go, oh, I know this horse needs this, and I know this client horse needs this, and so it's something I can really share with everybody, so that's exciting too.
Excellent. So good.
Yeah.
I love that. And that's my favorite thing about learning, is then going on to sharing it with my clients. So yeah. Might as well spread the knowledge, right?
That's right.
So good. Okay, so if you had a magic wand, what would you change in the horse world?
I will stand up on my soapbox and say, can we please be kind and stop judging each other? Because
yes,
I'm sure there's a few exceptions, but for the most part, we're all just like, nobody's trying to ride badly. Nobody's trying to do poorly by their horse.
Let's quote that. That's awesome.
Yeah, no one's trying to do poorly by their horse. Everybody thinks that they're doing the right thing for their horse, and we're just all in different parts of the journey. And there's certainly things that I may have done in the past that I go, whoa, that I wouldn't do now. And I think there's a lot of people that can say that. And you think about when you look at read any trainer's bio, and they will say correct training. Well, we all think we're correct. No one would say I'm an incorrect trainer, but I've won lots of medals. Like everyone thinks we're correct. So it's yeah, we're all trying to do our best, and so we need to be kind and be supportive of where people are at on their journey. And I know sometimes it's hard, and there's sometimes that you have to look the other way. And there's sometimes that you feel like you need to speak up for the benefit of the horse, but so that's a tough position to be in. But yeah, everyone thinks they're right.
And yeah, there's so many different perspectives out there. And the way I tell people sometimes, I'm like, there's a different way to train horses for as many horses are out there.
That's right. And that's kind of been a lot of the heart of my philosophy, and where the name of my group comes from, Open Minds Dressage, because there's so many different ways to do it. Yeah. And there's, I can learn something from a jumper rider. I can learn something from a reiner or a roper, and they can all learn things from me. And I feel like we can pull all of that together and be kind of awesome.
Exactly. Yeah, I like to think of us as really good sponges. We take in what we like, trickle out what we don't, and it all kind of gets mixed together and squishy,
Right. Yeah.
But it's a really nice way to stay open. And that's what I love, that name, Open Minds Dressage is so cool. So, can you describe one of your best riding lessons?
So I think one of the best riding lessons I've had is when you really click in with the horse, when there's kind of no end and no beginning between you, and you really, like, that horse sucks you down into the saddle as you're going along, and just really that feeling of being together. That's kind of my favorite thing. And once you find that, we're always hungry for it, but once you get a taste of that, then you're really hungry for it.
Yeah, it actually becomes addicting, that feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Searching for that feeling. So, and then when I teach, I'm always looking to like show it. I'm like, I want to show it to you because I want everyone to have that taste of that and go for it.
Yeah, there's nothing like that look on the rider's face when it clicks in. And you're like,
Yeah.
welcome to riding.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, it's the coolest feeling.
Yeah.
I think you described it beautifully.
Well, thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, so here's one. What's the best piece of advice you were given about horses?
It's hard to pick up. Again, I know I'm not giving you all these great answers, but
That's okay.
it's hard to pick out one thing.
You can do top 5 if you like.
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah, I don't have one good answer of what's the best piece of advice I've been given. And things that maybe were good advice earlier on, like I said, I would go, "Ooh, that's not such good advice now that I know more or maybe see things differently." But which is one of the greatest things. It's a Wayne Dyer quote, and if anyone's a Warwick Schiller fan, you've heard this said over and over again: is when you change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
it's a little off track of your question, but
I think it's, riding is life. The rest is just minor details.
right, yeah,
So it all
yeah.
connects.
I guess, yeah, and I guess some of the best advice really is that you really have to have. Speaking of details, it's the little stuff, the foundation, the basic stuff that makes a difference. You get that down really good, and you can do anything. It's easy to get hung up on beautiful flying changes or let me make this half pass. But let me tell you, that beautiful half pass is not going to happen if you don't have A, B, and C done first.
Definitely. It's always good to come back to the basics no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Always basics.
Let's see. I'm going to go to the questions from my group now. Got a couple here. Kelly wanted to know, I would love to just hear more about your experience as a high level rider. Can you please talk about your journey and philosophy?
Well, part of my philosophy is, like you said, basics. Those basics have to be there. Because everything will be easy after that. So even, for example, I've been working with a client with a horse, and the flying changes. He's a little Arabian. He's amazing, and I love him. But the flying changes had been started on him, but they weren't confirmed and they weren't clean.
Okay.
And so I had played with them a few times here, and the temptation for a lot of people would be, let's school the flying changes until we get them. But it's like, why am I going to do more bad flying changes? Because he's only doing them not on the aids and not clean because there's some little piece missing here. So what is the piece that's missing? And so for him, it was really about the shoulder mobility, getting the shoulders up out of the way and the collection. And I actually had a clinic lesson last week that helped me kind of get that final piece of that. Guess what? The horse does clean flying changes now. Like there was no effort. There's no effort on my part other than, well, let's just fix this. And then boom, it was there.
I love that.
So it's just another vote for basics. But as far as riding higher levels, I think the best thing you can do for yourself is get on as many horses as you can and schooled horses.
Yes.
It's like I can do so much more because I've already felt those feelings. And even if you go into a young horse, training level horse, because you already have those feelings, you kind of know where this is headed. So you can ride a young horse with the aim of going there. You know what that uphill canter feels like. So even though he's training level, I can still ride that uphill canter because my body knows what it feels like as well.
Exactly, because you have that blueprint that's already been embedded in your energetic field, and you can feel
Yeah.
that and send that to your horse.
Yeah. School, well-trained school horses like that are a gift.
Yes.
Which kind of goes back to my what would I do at $10 million question. It's like I would love to be able to have those horses available for people to learn on and ride, but it's such a journey to get them there, and
Oh yes.
a lot of times once people have them, then they, once trainers have that pre-St. George horse, they sell it because you kind of make money, make a living.
Right. That's a good point. But it's a worthy goal, and I love it. So let's keep that high in our
Yeah,
mind.
absolutely. It's so worth it.
Totally. Okay, so Jana has a couple questions here. I'll start with the main one. What do you look for when you're judging a dressage test? What are some of the main things?
Yeah, there's so many things. And I read that question earlier and I thought, okay, let me see how I can condense this down for us.
We could fill up the whole interview with it, I think, yeah.
Exactly. So the first thing I'm going to say is that the L program is where we start for learning how to be a judge. So I went through the L program and became an L graduate. But that L program, the first part of it, there's part 1 and part 2. Anybody can go and audit part 1.
Okay.
So anybody that, and it's usually not very expensive, anybody that thinks they're going to show, or even if you don't think you're going to show, it is a wealth of information. And I tell people that all the time. If your local organization is holding an L program, do it. And it will answer any questions that you might have about how do they come to this score? What are they looking for? You will know. The second best thing is scribing, sitting with the judge and scribing. You'll learn a ton. And most judges, everyone that I have sat with, always is happy to share their knowledge and, answer your questions. But so there's a basic formula that we work with when we're judging, which is the criteria, basics plus criteria plus or minus the modifiers equals the score. So the basics are the training scale. No, I'm not being all fluent on it.
That's okay.
But you have your rhythm, relaxation, regularity, because they've changed it a little bit in the last couple of years, but it's the same. Rhythm, relaxation, regularity, contact, impulsion, straightness, collection. So they're in the gates. Rhythm is one of the most important things. If I see something that's out of rhythm, that's automatically, I have to go down for that.
Right.
As it's indicative of so many problems as well. If the horse is out of rhythm, it's a basics foundational problem. So first we look at the basics. Is he connected? Is he having some issues? Rhythm, straightness, all of that. Then we look at the criteria of the movement. So, for example, a good one to talk about would be like shoulder in. Shoulder in has to be on 3 tracks. It's 33 degrees of angle. It has to be bent. We don't want it to look like a neck in. So what are the basics? Is the horse fulfilling the criteria? And then plus or minus the modifiers. Modifiers are things where, well, he had a great shoulder in, but things got a little wonky in the corner. Or he had a big spook. Or maybe on the other hand, it's a positive thing. I look at that shoulder and I go, whoa, that horse got more uphill, more expressive in that shoulder in. So I'm going to go up half a point or a point.
Nice.
So, and then that's how you arrive at the score. And you have to do it like that.
Yeah.
Really fast. So you practice at it.
Yeah, you really develop your eye, and I'm sure a lot of intuition comes into play with that as well.
Yeah, you practice it. That was one of the reasons why I wanted to do the L program, and just get into that practice of really thinking on your feet and coming up with all that quickly for somebody. I love it. For me, judging is like speed dating.
Oh, right. That makes a lot of sense.
Like, what can I tell this person in the 6 minutes in like half sentences in each box that's going to help them with their horse. That's my
Yeah,
goal.
that's an amazing challenge when you think about it.
It is, because you have to think about how people are going to interpret it.
Mhm.
So
You really hope your scribe's handwriting is decent.
yeah, how's your rider going to interpret what you say when you get home? You have to be very careful. If you make a comment like needs more energy, but then the rider goes home and chases their horse around the arena for, where's that going?
Right.
No.
Yeah, very good point.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
oh, I said thank you. Thank you for all that. So now she's getting a little more into specifics. She does basic lower level Western dressage. She'd like advice about conflicting advice from different judges. Some have said that the frame needed to be higher, others said it needed to be lower, and then she's left with a big question mark when she gets home. So again, it's that, interpreting what they mean kind of thing. So
yeah, exactly. And that's just the thing. Whenever you go to a show, you are paying for one person's opinion for the day, and for how you show up that day. So we all show up differently on different days. There's different circumstances. So yeah, without seeing the ride, it's kind of hard to comment on what's going on. And but it all kind of comes down to that judge's background, their preference, and their training, and what they're going to think about that, and the language that they use. Did they use the exact word frame? Or maybe that judge was actually meaning to talk about balance. So when they say the frame needs to come up, maybe what they really meant was the balance needs to come up. And that kind of comes down to one of those things where you just have to get super good at your language really fast as a judge.
Yes.
To use the right words to get the right point across.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So I guess you could tell her, it just depends on the judge, and, trust your instincts with your horse, and keep seeking different ways to make it feel better for both of you,
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, right. I mean, if it doesn't feel good for you or your horse, chances are that's probably not the right thing to do.
Right.
And even if it's not getting you the best score, and then you have to go find the trainer, the clinician, the judge to kind of help you marry those things together. So that might be the next step, especially if you can find a clinic with a judge that you trust that might be able to help put the pieces to that together.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's important to find people that you trust. I had another question that's not on the list, if you don't mind. So we talk a lot about doing less tack, and I've taken Pepper's noseband off. When I go back to doing online dressage shows, I'm going to put the noseband back on, but it's going to be super loose. Like, what are your thoughts about that? Do you think, just in general, do you want to talk to that? Or
yeah, so I ride a few horses now with a noseband. Now this goes back to one of those things, like things I may have been taught years past, where every horse had a cavesson and a flash band, period. And it wasn't always loose, we'll say.
Right. Yeah.
It was like, keep that horse's mouth closed. But now, since I've had this, my own space to explore that,
Oh. No, that's my internet or hers. Okay, so you're talking about being able to explore and not being able
the
to use the
cavesson thing.
trainers. Yeah.
Yeah, so my personal horse, she doesn't go in a cavesson at all. And I've taken cavessons off of a couple different horses, and they go better.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, if you have to strap your horse's mouth shut, then the next question needs to be, but why? So we kind of go to the obvious, check his teeth. Is the bit fitting properly? Is all your tack fitting properly? And then we go to the relationship with the connection. So, generally if they're having such a hard time keeping their mouth closed, they don't have a good relationship with the connection, and they're usually on the wrong muscles. They're not using the wrong muscle. And even further than that, it goes back to relaxation.
Yes.
So, and here's where people, I think, go so sideways with it when they take a cavesson and they strap it down. If there's nothing to open their mouth against, they tend to not fight it so hard. You strap their face down, and then they have something to go against, something to lean against. It's like, we'll take that off, and they don't have that to lean against anymore. And then I guess you have to be a better rider.
Oh heavens, yes.
Yeah, you have to be a better rider and solve the problems that way. So, I mean, I wish they could change the rule on that. And if I had more time, I would, lead that crusade. Because I think it's also a good crusade to lead before we even, bitless is the other question that gets talked about a lot.
Right.
And I feel like, well, if bitless is too hard for the powers that be to swallow at the moment, maybe we'll just try taking the cavesson off.
Right? That would be cool.
Yeah. But as far as showing goes, so, when we ride those horses without cavessons, then I usually just make it a decoration.
Yep. That's pretty much what I did. Pretty loose. Yep.
Yeah. And I would probably, in your schooling, put it on, take it off, put it on, take it off, so the horse isn't expecting it to be one way. It's not shocking to them when they go, whoa, there's something on my nose.
That's a good point. Thank you for reminding me that. So yeah, I'll have a play when it comes time, when we start practicing again.
Yeah.
That would be something to consider for sure. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I've got a couple more here. Have you ever thought your horse wanted to do one thing only to discover that they really wanted to do something else? And if so, how did you respond?
So I don't know if I would say they wanted to do something else, but I mean, what do they want to do something else? They want to go back to the pasture. But
not horses pull me towards jumps, though, to be fair.
Yeah. And you certainly, as you're trail riding, you'll walk by a turn on the trail, and they may want to go that way. And there's times when they're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of a funny, quick little story that happened one time when I'm riding along on one of our family horses, is Appaloosa, and we had so many things happen on this one trail ride that we needed to make time. So we're trotting on this single track to catch up, make some time. And the horse kind of had a history of doing a little spin and turn around, not necessarily spin and bolt, but he would spin around. So we're trotting along, and I'm out in front, and all of a sudden he spins around, and just as I'm thinking, doggone it, what? Don't you spin around on me. There's a rattlesnake in the middle of the trail.
Oh my goodness.
So that was one of those situations, you were not wrong. Good boy, buddy.
There's a reason for my madness right now. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think because most of my training with my clients is in the arena, the things that we run into are the horse doesn't, maybe he's not feeling it that day. We all don't wake up ready to go to the gym every single day, right? We have our days. And so, I had a ride on one mare where the normal way that I went about things on that particular day was a little too confrontational to her.
Okay.
For whatever reason. I don't know. It's not like it wasn't anything new, but I wasn't asking for anything outrageous, just for a little better balance. But that particular way was too confrontational. So I'm like, well, this is the place where things can either get ugly or we can find a different way. And I'm not into manhandling or fighting or anything like that with them. So I'm like, okay, well, I have some other tools in my toolbox, so let's bust those out. And I went to some other tools, and then she was fine. She's like, okay.
What did you do? I'm so curious.
So just for the balance, a lot of times I'll use some rain back with her.
Okay.
And she was like, no, can't do that. Like I said, it was too much hand, too confrontational for her that day. And so one of my other little tricks is leg yield.
Okay.
In a transition.
Yes.
So she's cantering along and she's leaning on me and not wanting to find her balance, or maybe she's trotting along and she's a thoroughbred. She kind of can get a little, you know, how they can get rolling and then they get out of balance. So I'll make a downward transition with leg yield. So they're transitioning and leg yielding, crossing their legs at the same time. So it's kind of one of my little clever ways of saying, well, you have to go over and you have to catch your balance, because your other choice is to fall over. Yes. And horses are never going to pick that. So
I love that.
You can present that in a playful way to them and kind of skirt around the issue, but still get the job done.
That's so good. Yeah, my event trainer taught me that years ago, and that is such a handy thing to have.
Mm-hmm.
And it also helps solidify them on the outside aids when you do it too.
Solidifies the outside. Well, a lot of times actually I will leg yield in.
Okay.
Yeah, a leg yielding out, sometimes they'll just fall out more. But if you leg yield, and chances are, especially if you're tracking left, they were already falling out and losing balance. So if I leg yield them in, I stand that shoulder up.
Nice.
And it will then get them better into the outside aids. But
so basically working the opposite to find your middle, is that right?
Yeah, I guess you could say that way. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I just love thinking about all the little details, playing around with that.
Yeah, it's I had one trainer that will always encouraged making things playful. Play with it, make it playful. And it's when you're looking at like the strict dressage thing, it's kind of like, well, how do I make dressage playful for you? But you just have to get creative and know that I don't use the movements generally like, now we're going to ride shoulder in. Well, I'm always riding shoulder in for a purpose, or whatever movement is. It's for a purpose. And I like to marry them all together, weave them all together in a way that makes it not boring and gives them something to do.
Yeah, it's like you're finessing them into a dance.
Exactly.
Inviting them. I love that.
Yeah.
So cool. Well, Crystal, is there anything else that you wanted to share that I didn't ask you?
No, I think we did it. And we kind of hit my biggest soapbox when we talked about how we're all on our own journeys and we need to be kind.
Yeah. So speaking of that, what would be your billboard for the horse world? What would you say on it?
Oh, be kind. Be kind to your other riders. We do talk about being kind to our horses all the time, and sometimes we can get kind of ugly.
Oh, I got chills from that.
Yeah, we can be ugly in the name of being kind to horses, even.
Oh.
But it's like, of course, we need to be kind to horses. That's a no-brainer, but like everyone's doing the best they can.
I love that so much. Thank you, Crystal.
Yeah, be kind to your other riders.
How can people get a hold of you if they'd like to work with you?
So the place that you will get the most interaction and get to learn the most about me is in my group, Open Minds Dressage. I also have my web page and my Facebook page for my business, which is Crystal Forsell Dressage.
Awesome. And I'll put links in that underneath this video for you, so people can find you and join the group as well. I love that group. I'm in there too.
Yeah, it's amazing. We have so many great people in there, and I'm just really happy to have preserved the spirit the whole way. throughout its growth. It's really amazing. They have a lot of great people in there, and lots of different facets. People in there that are body workers or other trainers, and we're not all straight dressage. It really is bringing in what I was looking for, which is taking something from different places to make everybody better.
I love that. So good.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you again for being here.
You're so welcome. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. All right, you guys. So remember to lead with kindness for yourself and for your horse. And may the horse be with you always.